Welcome back, everybody. Hope you had an absolutely delightful lunch. I have. It was a chicken burger, if you wanted to know. Perhaps you've had something healthier than that, maybe some fruit and veg, some water. Don't forget to stay hydrated. It is pretty hot today. So it's exciting, and as glued to your seat as I'm sure you are watching Time Attack, please don't forget to keep yourself nourished and hydrated, especially today when it's so hot. You gotta keep yourself in good condition. Not least so you can keep watching Time Attack. So, we've just kicked off our qualifying session. Those of you who are watching throughout the morning, you'll know by now that both warm-up and practice don't actually count for any championship points. They are literally just warm-up and practice, as the name would suggest. Now, session, and then the final session later today are the first sessions that score championship points. So, it's not impossible that our drivers so far have been doing a little bit of sandbagging, a little bit of tiptoeing, just finding their way around the track. There's no need to push right now because it doesn't count for any points. And in fact, if you were to set a lap record during warm-up or practice, if you're the fastest ever person in class around the track in warm-up or practice, that wouldn't count. That would not be official because those sessions aren't really officially classified. They aren't officially timed. They are literally just for warm-up and practice. So now we kick off our qualifying session. Back in the olden days of Time Attack, qualifying was actually a qualifying in the literal sense, where only the through to the subsequent session. These days, that's more of a legacy thing, and qualifying, it doesn't really work in the literal sense. But qualifying is there to kind of suggest that this is an important session that does bear consequences. Now, it doesn't qualify you for the final or not, but it does qualify you for points. So qualifying, doing well in qualifying awards you some points. Doing well in the final is where really the big points are at play. But this is going to be the first time we see the drivers actually probably putting the hammer down, because now there are actual real points on the line. Only the half of the maximum points that you get in the final, but nonetheless, points still. So, with that being said, let's take a look at Michael Birch in the Tegawa Racing Honda Civic. There he goes, he's been quick all morning so far, headlights ablaze, telling us that he is not hanging around today. The session has just begun, and yet here he goes through Hislop's and Nickerberg. Now up Clay Hill, there you go. Now into Druids he soon goes. There we go, and now into Druids Corner, there you go. And you can see Warwick Bridge in the distance, and now down here he goes. Down and then up. As you can see, this is a recurring theme today. This is a very uneven track. Complicated further still by the fact this is a very fast track as well. There we go. So he comes around Lodge and up and over Deer Leap, and now finishes his timed lap. Does Michael Birch, goes fastest of all purple all across the timing screens. He is the fastest car on track right now. Bearing in mind that our drivers are only just getting out of their out laps, so they are finally going to be starting to put in some hot laps. Now, Michael Birch then remains the fastest so far as drivers begin plugging in those hot laps. Andrew Kine, Chris Butcher. Here we have Andrew Hawes, Tim Bedford, Steve Wilkinson. All of these drivers then beginning to put in their first timed laps of qualifying. So let's make no mistake here. This is a point scoring session. This session is relevant for the championship, and this was going to be deciding in terms of your final championship standings. And in cases where your championship title fight is decided by a point or two here or there, it's sessions like this in qualifying that could make that difference. Every point counts, and this is where we're going to see the drivers actually start to really turn it up. There we go. Speaking of turn it up, Tim Bedford in the Mazda RX-8 putting that power down coming out of Island Bend. We have said it time and time again, if there's any man comfortable with being sideways, any driver here that we have, man or woman of course, Tim Bedford is the one. And in fact, I think we also have Susie in the pit lane. What have you got for us, Susie?
I'm down here in the pit lane with Matt Newing. So Matt, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your car, what class you're driving in?
So basically we started off in club four-wheel drive, and now we're driving in pro. So this is kind of my first time on the slicks, learning the slicks and getting a feel for the car really.
So how much has that changed the handling of the car?
It's changed the braking, whereas before you had to get right on the braking. Now it's trying to feel for the braking, because otherwise you end up stopping halfway back. So it's been really good.
Were you running the slicks at Brands as well?
Yeah, no, I've ran the slicks at Brands, completely different. Brands isn't my favourite circuit. Alton, I really like Alton because it's nice flowing, you get a good feel. So in the next session, I'm hoping that we're not going to have any red flags, so I can get proper seat time and a proper go at it.
So, and how's the car handling the heat today? Because it's pretty warm out there today.
The best conditions were the first thing this morning. I think we might have some different reactions on the tyres. We're running mediums, which in this weather I think they're going to go off quick. Earlier on they're okay, they were sticking on. That's the only problem I see, other than it being really hot in the car. And if we do have any red flags, if we get held in, we're all going to melt in the cars. But other than that, the car's driving really well. It's built by Gary from APT. He's done a great job on it. It's quicker than it was before, a little bit more brake horsepower, but you know, it's a good car.
And you've had the car a while now. It's evolved a bit over the years, right?
Massively evolved since I got it. It started off as a cousin Ben thing, where he said, "No, let's get a track car." Basically, I couldn't drive. The lads taught me to drive over the last 4 or 5 years, and we progressed it from a basic car with basic aero. We started off with mental brake horsepower. I couldn't really drive the car, so Ben tended to drive the car a lot more. But as we've progressed it, the car's a lot more settled. It works a lot better, and it's easier to drive. So it gave me the chance of actually driving the car properly.
And yeah, I mean, you did amazingly at Brands, right? So you're hoping to get another podium today?
Yeah, I hope so. But you never know. It's time attack. It just depends if someone gets in your way, or you know, someone's on a racing line as you come around the corner when you're going quick. If you are, you've got a decision to make whether to pull out or not to pull out. And you know, it is what it is.
Brilliant. Well, good luck out there. Good luck with coping with the heat as well.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Thank you, guys. Right. While all of that was kicking off, thank you very much for Matt Newing there, just sharing a little bit of his insight. We did see Tim Bedford then, this slideways master, really taking to some extremes this universal truth that your tire is performing at its best when it has a amount of slip angle. So, you know, this is kind of part of the science, is really for that tire to be working to its fullest and to be gripping to the fullest, actually it needs a tiny bit of lateral slip on it as well. And Tim Bedford perhaps just taking that to the extreme. You can see him sideways out of the island bend and then just sideways throughout the rest of that lap. So he might want to rein that a little bit in, because that's probably going beyond what is fast. Yeah, so there we go. Tim Bedford then, who we know and love from previous rounds of Time Attack, both in the RX-8 and in an Impreza, which Impreza in the Pro Extreme class with a bit of a WRC styling. Again, driving that with a healthy dab of Oppo, sideways, nice bit of slip, and Tim Bedford then just just doing what he does best. Thank you for those of you who are watching live on Facebook. I can see your comments popping up. Glad you're enjoying the motorsport with us here today. If you do have any questions, please do throw them my way. I'll do my best to answer them, or find somebody that can. I can see Rachel Lineker there saying, "Come on, Eden Young, GizFab, good luck." Absolutely. So Eden Young in the K11 Micra. The GizFab entered 2:01 machine, single round entry allegedly, but I mean, he's been doing a lot of single round entries at this point. Let's have a look at this Rover 220 Tomcat then, the machine of Stuart Tranter, Old Boy Racing in the new for today, classic and retro class. It's a class that we've had in the past, a class that we haven't seen this year, but thankfully we've had so many qualifying classic and retro cars today that they've got their own little class to fight it out in. You can see the Mini there going side by side with the RX-7, this Generation 1, Series 1 Mazda RX-7 and Mark Spence going toe-to-toe with that Mini, and you can see the Rover 220 Tomcat just closing in behind them. Coming over Deer Leap, there we go. So the Mini just perhaps falling a little bit behind the Mazda RX-7 and back towards the clutches of Stuart Tranter. is Thomas Mosley in that classic Rover Mini, the 33 Motorsport machine. There we go. Andrew Keim in the Citroen Saxo, quickly reeling him in now as they come. Here we go. Let's just follow these drivers through. Now they come through Cascades and down the lakeside past Alton Lake. And you can see there the Renault Clio of Michael Hume just getting out of the way as both of these drivers break into islands. We've seen so many drivers get crossed up coming into and out of and in the middle of island, but luckily these guys get through unscathed. You can see then that RX-7 being chased down, hunted down by Andrew Keim, the number 45 Citroen Saxo, headlights ablaze, telling people around him that he is on a hot lap. He is not planning to yield to anybody. I've had a pop-up on my screen. Here we go. Right. Thanks to the mention, Alexei. No worries. Go Michael Birch, says Richard Tungate. Who's trackside, says Michael Greenhue. There's lots of people trackside. Maybe that question wasn't for me. That's just for other people watching. Here we go. Then Andrew Keim going around that Mazda RX-7 of Mark Spence. The Silver Fern Performance Machine, that SA or FB, however you choose to call it, Series 1 Mazda RX-7. If I'm getting the nomenclature wrong, please do correct me. My understanding is that both the SA and the FB chassis codes are interchangeable on these. Whichever school of thought you belong to, it's a Series 1 first generation Mazda RX-7. Very rare beast indeed, especially with that super cool wraparound rear window. And I can see that in the pit lane we might have something. Yep, let's go. Susie, what have you got?
I'm down here with Mike on Team Confusion. So obviously you had a bit of a nasty incident at the end of the last round at Brands Hatch, but you are back on track today.
You could say that, yeah. Not much left of the car, but we've had, what, 4 weeks is it? Good team effort. We got donated a car, luckily. 4 weeks to reshell it, recage it, back together, and here we are.
And obviously not the same car, but tell us a little bit about what happened then.
What, in the accident? Or?
Well, after the event.
After the event, literally I think it was the same day, we got offered another car, so that got stripped the next day. It was a bare shell again. Within a couple of days it had a cage, straight off, and within a week or so it was back and running. And teething problems now, but here we are.
Yeah, it's an amazing story that you're actually back on track at all. It's a testament to all of your work to get that back and running.
It's been a lot of late nights, but you know, the team have completely come together, and here we are.
And how is it running today then?
First 2 sessions have been brilliant. We did snap a drive shaft, so at the minute the one that's on it is the one from the accident, and it is like a banana. So he's put his teeth in and he's hoping, but it's going okay. So.
And obviously a full fusion is not exactly what you normally see on the track, so you just tell us a little bit about the car, because it's not your average full fusion, is it?
Well, we could have built something that, you know, everybody's got that you see every day, but we want it to be a bit different, something that'd stand out, get a few people behind us, and that's what it is, you know? You don't see another one.
And what engine is it running?
It's a Honda Civic Type R K20 engine. It's been played with a little bit. The cage, with all the cage in the car, it weighs about 940 kilos. So it's nippy, you know, does what it has to do, and it embarrasses a few other cars, which is good.
Yeah, it's great to see you back out. Yeah, we're so glad to see you back at the event this round.
Oh, we're just grateful to be here, to be honest.
Excellent. Hope you have a great afternoon. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
I mean, for me, the story of Team Confusion just really embodies that spirit of grassroots motorsport, maybe, but especially the spirit of Time Attack. You know, there are so many human stories of these late night rebuilds and reshells and engine swaps, and you know, you hear this stuff so often, and I think that's the flesh and blood of Time Attack, is this can-do attitude. Perhaps especially, of course, for the Team Confusion entry, having undergone such a significant impact at Brands Hatch and having to reshell the whole project and do it all over again in time for Alton Park is just a titanic effort. So absolute heroes at Team Confusion. Awesome to hear their story. And like they said, you know, you've done we've done the Ford Fiestas. You know, the Quick Fiesta is a done thing. The Quick Seat, done thing. The Quick VXR, yep, that's been done too. You know, there are some chassis that really have been worked and developed as far as they could go. And so Team Confusion thought, look, all of that stuff's already been done. You know, we're even sharing a paddock with some of this. How about we find a Ford Fusion, one of the most unpopular, unsexy chassis out there, and we just make that astonishingly quick. We drop in the iconic Honda K series, and we just take that to Time Attack. And so they did, and legend was made. So great to see them back with this brand new shell. You can see it on your screen there, the number 99 car just ahead of that Rover 220 Tomcat. Got some more comments coming in. Michael Greenborough then coming back with a new comment saying, go GizFab. So the GizFab entry of Eden Young, hugely popular. Eden Young and his company GizFab with a massive following online. Very, very popular guy, and he's really bringing in quite a few viewers for us today. So I do appreciate that. Loads of, we got the GizFab Barmy Army here today. Stu Reed saying, great racing, hoping to be there with my next year with my shop car. Reed's Racing Mark II Astra GTE, fingers crossed. Absolutely, Stu Reed, fingers crossed from me as well. Mark II Astra GTEs, that's another contender for Classic and Retro. That's going to be super cool. If you do manage to bring that along, I will come and shake your hand. That is super awesome. We've just been having so much fun. You've seen that. You saw the car stopped out on track, which looked like the Owen Hillman Pro Alloys Mini Cooper S. So perhaps we'll need a few minutes just to clear that up. That happened right towards the end of the session as the interview was happening with Susie there. By the way, if you are especially interested in watching the timing, I do recommend you go onto your search engine of choice, type in TSL timing, Tango Sierra Lima timing, and you can bring up all the same information that I have and more. So if you want to follow a particular driver or you want to really get stuck in the data, all of that is available, so absolutely go and check that out. Here we go, Emma Young saying, come on, Ed, GizFab. So again, the GizFab Barmy Army here just filling the comments. Great to see. Let's have a look at some of our lap times then, as our qualifying is now done. I mean, where did that even go? We've been having too much fun here. Susie in there with the interviews, all of that action on the track, you guys getting stuck into the discussion. Thank you very much. We're having a great time together. Let's have a look at some of these lap times. Andrew Kime then qualifies first. Bearing in mind, this is the first session where these drivers are really, really going for it. So Andrew Kime then really making a statement there, going fastest of all in this session, fastest in class naturally as well, and that is Pocket Rocket. Andrew Kime there in the Citroen Saxo with a 137.4, ahead of Chris Butcher in the Lexus ISF leading Clubman Plus with a 138.2, so 0.7 seconds adrift there of first place. First in class though, of course. Michael Birch in the Tegawa Racing Honda Civic, second in Pocket Rocket, third fastest overall with a 138.8. I'm going to rattle through these before the timing screen is cleared. Then we have Hillman with a 139.6, Waddington in the Ford Fusion with a 140.6, Hume in the Clio 182 with a 142.5, Hawes in the Mini Challenge 210 with a 142, Spence in the Mazda RX-7 with a 143.7, Tim Bedford in the Mazda RX-8 with a 144.9, Tranter in the Rover 220 Tomcat with a 145.7, Nick Stott in the Mini Cooper Coupe with a 147.1, Moon in the Subaru Impreza with a 147.1, Wilkinson in the Clio Renault with a 149.3, Young, Eden Young there with a 150.666, 14th fastest overall. Then we have Mosley in the Rover Mini with a 153.666 again. Don't know what the significance of that is, but maybe there is something there. Then we have Hopwell, 16th fastest overall with a 155.8. And then last but not least, Antonio Giovinazzo back after a little bit of a hiatus with a 2 minutes 5 second 0.6 as a single round entry. There we go, timing screen is cleared. Let's kick off qualifying then for our club cars. You can see them filling your screen right now. On your left is the Westfield Mega Busa of Steve Arkley, quite possibly the best named car ever. I was just having a look at that during the lunch break. You can see all carbon fiber running that 1495cc Suzuki engine, powering that thing. David Lawrence then just next to him. I mean, these two cars are really just chalk and cheese, aren't they? And to think that they are competing in the same championship, albeit in different classes, that's just a testament to the beauty of Time Attack for me. It's just the absolute variety of cars. Mike Butler there in the E92 chassis BMW M3 next to that Caterham Supersport of Jonathan Ellsworth that we were looking at a little bit earlier on. 377 horsepower per ton. Very quick machine indeed. David Dyson in the Porsche 911 GT3. Very, very rapid, fastest of all, I believe, in practice in Club 2-wheel drive and in the club session. So great kudos there to David Dyson for really hot-footing that car around here at Alton Park. Arturas Exurius in the number 113 car, the Subaru Impreza. Then next to him is the Renault Sport Megane R26 of Chris Atkins, who used to compete here in a Renault Sport Clio. Now he's made the change to that Renault Sport Megane. Natalie Brooks there then in the Foster machine, the number 223 BMW M3. Got a comment here from Michelle Louise saying, good luck, baby girl, Natalie Victoria Brooks, which is Natalie Brooks. So there you go. She is getting the love in the comments as well. Good luck, Jonathan Ellsworth. And Team JJE Racing says Matthew Roberts in the comments. Hopefully, Jonathan Ellsworth would have heard that over the PA, that wish of good luck from his pal Matthew Roberts there. Great to see. Love that. Then we've got Andy York here in the Spooks Motorsport machine. That Honda K-Series powered Peugeot 205. You know, we just had that discussion with Team Confusion. Susie there was just talking about that same Honda, that iconic Honda K-Series powering the Ford Fusion is also powering this Peugeot 205. Absolutely legendary engine swap, and there's a reason why, perhaps in Europe at least, that's the go-to swap for a lot of people. I know in other regions, you know, in the US, it might be the LS family V8. In Japan, maybe people are looking at a lot of 2JZs, stuff like that. Definitely in the UK these days, it seems like people have understood that the K20 or the K-Series family of engines is really the one to go for a lot of people. So Andy York then, of course this isn't a new build, this has had a K20 for a long time. So there we go, Andy York in that Spooks Motorsport built machine. Johnny Fletcher and Neil Greenland now exiting the pit lane. Then we have the two BMW M's, the M3 and the M4, just coming out of there as well, the machines of Mike Butler and Ross Walker. Let's have a look at these comments. And Mike Butler, getting some love there in the comments from Simon Cornish saying, go for it, Mike Butler. Absolutely go for it, Mike Butler. We have missed you. Mike Butler having been absent from Time Attack for a little while. I remember that car, that BMW M3 E92 with the GT4, GT3 kind of styling from a few years back. Even with a factory-looking livery, super cool build, full of references, and it's great to see it back here in Time Attack. You can see then these drivers just making their way gingerly around the track as they warm themselves up, they warm the cars up, they warm themselves up. Bearing in mind, they've had a lunch break, they've had some time off. Luckily, the weather today seems pretty stable. If anything, it might be a bit hotter than it was early in the morning, but even so, I think the drivers are pretty much dealing with very much the same scenario as what they were dealing with earlier this morning, which means that all of their research that they've been doing throughout the morning in terms of tire pressures, in terms of suspension settings, in terms of, you know, that kind of stuff, that can remain constant. You know, a big part of the point behind warm-up and practice is also just for the drivers and the teams, if they're running telemetry, to be able to understand a little bit about today's scenario. So what that means is the drivers are understanding, you know, if the weather is a bit funny, you know, they're trying to understand their various braking lines, what kind of curbs they're going to be using, where they're changing gear. There's a lot of things here, but also in terms of the car, what tire pressures should they be running? Do they want softer tires that are kind of, you know, they've got a bit more yield and sponge to them? Are they perhaps using their tire pressures to regulate the oversteer balance of their car? You know, so the morning is often dedicated to a lot of R&D, really, in terms of how the car should be set up for when the competitive sessions come. Now, of course, if you have a rain shower in the middle of the day, then that means all of that data you've been gathering throughout the morning is now irrelevant. Luckily for the drivers right now, the weather is pretty much consistent with how it's been for the whole day, meaning that those insights they've been gathering and feeding into the setup of their car and into the setup of their own drive can now be applied at full force as we head into qualifying. So you can see the headlights ablaze on some of these cars. There we go, the two little kit cars, the Caterham Supersport and the Westfield Megabusa. There we go, just coming through there. Heading up, I'm gonna stop doing that. Heading up the hill, up Clay Hill now come these two very rapid little beasts. The headlights switched on then on Steve Arkley's machine, the Westfield Megabusa, single round entry in Club Sport, the number 7 machine. And there you go, the Caterham Supersport just trying to find a way around that. But of course, Steve Arkley, with his headlights switched on, is under absolutely no obligation to yield being on a hot lap, especially to a car that isn't even on a hot lap. You know, you can see the cool down light blinking on the back of Jonathan Ellsworth's car. So Jonathan Ellsworth, if he wants to get past, he needs to do so cleanly himself. He has just set the fastest lap of anyone so far. Bearing in mind, he isn't even on a hot lap. You know, you can see his cooling light flashing right now. He isn't even perhaps trying particularly hard, yet going faster than anybody else right now, manages to find a way past Steve Arkley. And of course, you know, there are different ways to give yourself room in Time Attack. You know, it's a really, people look at it and think, oh, you've just got to go and set a quick lap. But of course, there's so much more to it because you're doing it amongst traffic. You know, and if you didn't like dealing with traffic, there are other series you can go and do where it's just a car doing a lap, which in my personal opinion is pretty boring. You know, the whole pull of Time Attack is that not only are you doing it, you got 25 other people doing it as well at the same time. And so making yourself that room, finding yourself some empty space in the track is a real part of that skill. Either whether you're hustling your way through that traffic. You know, Jonathan Ellsworth, when he was coming up to the back of Steve Arkley's machine, that Westfield Megabusa, he had two choices. He could either try to find a way past, even though the car ahead was on a hot lap and under no obligation to yield, or he could perhaps fall back and, you know, create a big gap in which he could then actually, you know, accelerate and put in some quick lap times. Of course, hoping that in the process he wouldn't catch up to traffic again. And of course that he wouldn't fall back into traffic and get stuck in a gaggle behind him. So these are a lot of the nuances of Time Attack. You'll see often cars come into the pit lane, drive through the pit lane, and then leave the pit lane without even stopping. The reason why drivers do that is the pit lane is limited to 40 miles an hour or thereabouts, so the drivers dive into the pit lane. They spend the next 40 seconds driving along at 40 miles an hour, and they come out on track in a completely different position to where they were because, of course, everyone else is going past at racing pace. So, you know, there are different things drivers will try to do to create themselves that space. Neil Greenland then, having found a little bit of clear running, his headlights are switched on. Very, very fast entry right here. Let's see what he can do as he comes through Island Bend, a corner where we've seen loads of drivers come off so far. Every single time we come to Alton Park, we see this. Island Bend catching a lot of people out. Samuel Pickering, however, fastest of all so far with a 135.0, ahead of Johnny Fletcher in the Vauxhall Astra GSI with a 135.6. Then we have Andy York in the Peugeot 205 with a 135.8, ahead of Kevin Thieker in the Vauxhall Astra GSI with a 136.4. And then our Arturus Exurius, here we go, the whole order has changed as David Dyson goes fastest of all with a 134.9 in the Porsche 911 GT3. You saw in the pit lanes there. Let's just have a look at one of the cars has stopped. That is the machine of Chrissy Martin, the 964 Super Impreza GC8. And you can literally see the crew member going around the car, tweaking those tire pressures. Because of course, when you are setting up your tire pressures, you are doing that when your car is cold. And you are trying to second guess what your tire pressures will be once they become hot, right? And as air heats up, it expands, your tire pressure goes up. And so when you're doing it when the tires are cold, you're actually trying to anticipate that increase in tire pressure to where you want it to be when the car is hot on track. Now, sometimes it isn't always possible to guess that perfectly, so we'll see the drivers coming in and out of the pit lane just to make little tweaks to that tire pressure. That is all they're doing, because that makes a massive, massive difference to the balance of your car, whether you're understeering, oversteering, you know, just a few PSI, literally single digits, 1 or 2 PSI here or there and beyond. Of course, you can go more than that, but you can see even a tiny amount of PSI adjustments can make a really significant difference to the balance of your car. It really is that simple, you know? If you think your car is understeering, absolutely just jump in, give your front some more grip, you know, lower that pressure on the front, raise it on the back, and you'll see actually a really significant difference in the handling of your car. If that isn't enough, you can just go further and further and further. Meanwhile, the driver going further and further and further and faster and faster and faster is David Dyson, who slams in another fastest lap, faster than anybody out on track right now. David Dyson in the Porsche 911 GT3 with a 133.9 in the number 144 car, building that gap to anybody else behind him, looking pretty unassailable at a whole second clear from Samuel Pickering. And we looked at this earlier today, and really I feel like Alton Park might be the track for that Porsche 911 GT3, where it has that impeccable chassis that you can just really hustle around those high speed sections. And of course, it has the power that it needs to punch its way through the air and just really make the most of those straights. This isn't a track like Cadwell Park. This isn't a track like Brands Hatch Indy, where we've been so far this year. Alton Park is a whole different beast that rewards big power and a great chassis. And that Porsche 911 GT3 has both of those, and of course, a very handy driver as well. Meanwhile, in the comments, Wayne Gimbert says, all the best, Natalie Brooks. We haven't seen a great deal of her. Something is on the track. And that looks, what is that? Is that that's a fan? Let's just get a real close-up of that fan. You can even see a little plug there. Why is there a fan on the track? Pretty sure that's not meant to be there. Unless it's a really small competitor, and that's actually a hovercraft. It's just a tiny little time attack machine. I do wonder why that's there. Anyway, Hayden King then, here we go in the Seat Leon. Where's Hayden King right now? Hayden King is lapping 15th fastest overall, 13th fastest in Club 2-wheel drive. I mean, Club 2-wheel drive is a tough brief. It is probably the most oversubscribed class that we have in Time Attack. And I mean that in a good sense. We want people to come. We want the big entry lists. What that means is this is a very tricky class in which to be the fastest, because the Clubman classes are quite restrictive in terms of what you can do to your car. So if you've really thrown yourself into your build, chances are you've already taken it way beyond what Clubman will allow, and you find yourself in Club 2-wheel drive. So most people who have a ready-built car decide to join Time Attack will find that Club 2-wheel drive is the class that they fall into most naturally. So Club 2-wheel drive, massively popular class. You can see, yeah, I mean, Hayden King, you know, 14th fastest in that class, and he isn't even in last place in class. Massive class is Club 2-wheel drive. So I can see Fala Khalid here getting involved in the comments saying, who brought a shopping cart to a racetrack? I'm not quite sure what car he's referring to, but you know, that's part of the joy of Time Attack. Just now we saw a Ford Fusion doing Time Attack of all things, and doing it incredibly successfully as well. So don't be deceived by the looks, because really anything is possible in Time Attack. We have seen that time and time again. Where is this held? This is Alton Park in England, Great Britain. Thank you for joining us. Fala Khalid, don't know where you're joining us from, but by all means, absolutely welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. Let's have a look at Natalie Brooks. She's got a fair few comments here, wishing her luck in the number 223 machine, the faster BMW M3, the F80 chassis, from what I understand, running 700 horsepower on low boost. So there you go. Very, very quick car. And we saw this car driven by by like a rota of drivers in past seasons when Faster had an initiative called Fast Her. See what they did there? Where every round was a different lady driver, woman driver, female driver, whatever. Great, really cool initiative. This year that car is being driven by Natalie Brooks only. And boy, is she doing a great job as well. Great to see that. Let's have a look on your screens. Then you can see the machine of Steve Arkley, that Westfield Mega Booster run here by Moorside horsepower. I'm foreign in it, sorry, I don't know that word. Moorside horsepower, there we go. Westfield Mega Booster, that's all we need to know. There we go, and then we have Jonathan Ellsworth in the other kit car. Of course, this could be factory built. I realize that kit car sounds like I'm being nasty. I'm not, that's just literally what this is. I mean that in the best sense. And there you go, Jonathan Ellsworth then, very quick throughout Time Attack. He took a little gap away from competition. Then he is back, and actually, speaking of someone else who's back, it looks like we've got Susie Wallace in the pit lane with an interview. What have you got for us, Susie?
I'm down here in the pit lane with Nico Stott, sorry. So can you tell us, how's your day going, and what car are you in actually? Just give us a quick introduction.
Yeah, it's going pretty well. I'm in the Mini R58, the Cooper S in Pocket Rocket. It's going well. We've had a lot of upgrades over the winter from last year. Completely overhauled FIA spec cage, new suspension, and just for this round we've got brand new proper race brakes, fully floating with a pedal box. So it's going really well in terms of handling and brakes. It's never driven as good as it has today, but we're down on power a bit. I'm not really sure what the cause is. I think it might be ignition perhaps, and but hopefully we can fix that, and if not, then I'll just have to try and catch up on the corners.
And how is it out there in the temperatures? How's like tyres? Are you having to manage the heat in the tyres and the car?
Yeah, the tyres, they're actually pretty good, these Pirellis. They come on really quickly. In this heat, they go off after, probably if you do a full session flat out, they go off, so you have to watch it a bit, because I tend to just keep the hammer down the whole session. So towards the end, you have to watch them a bit, but they're pretty good. The heat temperature's not so bad. I know the big turbo guys are struggling a bit, but me with a little tiny turbo, I'm okay.
We talked to you a bit last year, and you have the backstory, obviously, of racing with your dad as well. So are your family here to support you again?
No, actually, they're at Formula One today. They're probably watching on the live stream, so hi.
Oh, well, they've just left you to say.
Yeah, well, it's the Formula One, so they usually come to every other event, but, they couldn't pass up on going to see Lewis win today.
Well, that's priorities for you then.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have been there if it wasn't for this. I was there yesterday. I'm going tomorrow, so looking forward to that.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, I hope you sort your grim rims out. Have good luck in the afternoon.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Actually, Nick Stott there talking about Formula One. A driver there of real pedigree, actually, and a real thoroughblood history himself. So Nick Stott, having done karting in his youth with a lot of the current up-and-coming Formula One drivers. So Lando Norris springs to mind, a few of the others, Jamie Chadwick, I think, perhaps as well. So Nick Stott there in his past, having raced with a lot of today's up-and-coming top talent, and actually, between you and me, having beaten quite a few of them on occasion. So there we go, some real talent there from Nick Stott. Just giving Susie a bit of an update. We did see on your screens his teammates. He's joined forces with David Lawrence this year. Nick Stott and David Lawrence as part of LSR Motorsport, and we did see the car of David Lawrence in the gravel. Not entirely sure what happened there to the 888. Oh, that wasn't the 888 car, sorry. That was the machine, the 556 machine, the Seat Leon Cupra of David Lawrence there in the gravel. Not entirely sure what happened. The cameras didn't catch the incident itself, only the aftermath and the dust and the clouds of gravelly, smoky, gravelly stuff. So I'm not entirely sure. Fingers crossed everything is good there for David Lawrence. And let's see what the outcome of that is. In the meantime, the checkered flag did come out. By the way, I have said this, I'll say it again, please absolutely do consider going and opening up the TSL timing website. That's Tango Sierra Lima, TSL timing, and you can have all the data at your fingertips that I'm relying on right now. That being said, let's just whiz through our top qualifiers then. This session is absolutely flying. Time flies when you're having fun and all that stuff. Let's see where we are then. So, Fastest then, and qualifying, finishing first in qualifying is David Dyson with a Porsche 911 GT3 with a 133.9, and of Ross Walker in that super speedy BMW M4 with a 134.2, 0.3 seconds off first place. Then third fastest overall and first fastest in class is Samuel Pickering, making that leap from One What You Brung into the Time Attack Championship with a 135.0. And we have James Dover in the Honda Integra Type R, Johnny Fletcher in the Vauxhall Astra GSI, Mike Butler in the BMW M3, Natalie Brooks in the other newer BMW M3, and De York in that Peugeot 205. So interestingly, we can see that order has actually changed a little bit from the morning sessions, as now these drivers are really beginning to turn up the pace. Then we, after that, have 9th fastest overall and 8th fastest in Club 2-wheel drive, Jonathan Ellsworth in the Caterham Supersport, Kevin Thieker in the Vauxhall Astra, Arturo Luxurious in the Subaru Impreza, Neil Greenland in that Mitsubishi Colt, not quite being able to find the pace around here, usually at the very sharp end of the timing screens. Then we have Martin in the Subaru Impreza GC8, Lawrence in the Seat Leon Cooper. We saw him in the gravel there towards the end of the session. Sean Amara in the Honda Integra Type R, the DC2 chassis with a 137.6. 16th overall and 13th fastest in class was Atkins with a 138.1. King in the other Seat Leon with a 139.8, Stockton in the Vauxhall Astra van with a 141.0, and Arkley in the Westfield Mega Busa with a 141.0. So there we go, 19 finishers in qualifying just now in the club session. That is Club Sport, Club 2-wheel drive, and Club 4-wheel drive. Meanwhile, our pro cars are getting ready to head out onto the track as that previous incident is cleared, presumably. Let's take a look at some of the comments you've been sending in. One from Ant Aiken, just an FYI, the engine in Eden Young's Micra had done over 130,000 miles before he supercharged it and stuffed it into the GizFab machine. It is doing well, but yes, just for your understanding, just for your reference, that again is the GizFab Barmy Army strikes again in the Time Attack comments. I love to see it. That engine is a 1.3, I think. Little tiny 1.3 liter engine, supercharged, and it was already on 130,000 miles before it decided to do Time Attack. So massive kudos to GizFab for pulling that off. Super cool build. Thanks to all of the fans for getting involved in the comments. Meanwhile, we can see the drivers lining up to head out on track for the pro qualifying. I think they might have a little wait because we do have something of a cleanup operation to do first. Let's have a look at our classes then, because here we have Club Pro 2-wheel drive and Club Pro 4-wheel drive, which are very modified cars that are divided up into Pro, into 2- and 4-wheel drive by their drivetrain. Cool. Then we have Pro 2-wheel drive and BC Racing Pro 4-wheel drive, which is the same but just more modified and more fast, and thus more gooder. And then we have GT3 sports car and prototype class and Pro Extreme. So as you can see, the Pro session is pretty busy in itself too, but we do have some more subdivisions where previously we had Club 2-wheel drive and Club 4-wheel drive with the addition today of Club Sport. Actually, in the Pro session, it is subdivided quite a lot. These classes are generally 5 or 6 cars big, and of course that does mean that your likelihood of getting a podium does increase because you're competing with fewer rivals. So with that prize, that precious carrot dangling just in sight, you wonder whether these drivers perhaps might have that incentive to push that little bit harder. Let's see Roman Grandel there in the number 333 car. Another driver that used to compete, well, not even compete, used to participate in Run What You Brung, because of course that isn't competitive. Run What You Brung making the leap into the full fat Time Attack Championship. And for those who aren't in the loop, Run What You Brung is like a taster. It's like a Time Attack taster. I wish it was around back when I did time attack, because it would have, it would have helped me make my mind up that I did want to do time. Actually, it doesn't make a difference because I did it anyway. I jumped straight into time attack because it looked like a really good time. But if you're less certain and you're on the fence, then you can come and do this thing that's called Run What You Brung, which is fundamentally very similar to the Time Attack Championship on your screens now. Sorry, no, nothing. But it's more cost-effective to enter. And yeah, there you go. The rule book is a little bit more relaxed. You don't need to run the control tire. It does mean that you don't get the full championship experience, the points, the trophies, the coverage, because it is not really considered, it's way less. It is literally like time attack taster session. It's tricky to really, you can't really have anything competitive when the rule book is completely open, all the different classes are combined, cars are all different specs, tire selection is all over the place. So Run What You Brung is really just a way of sampling what time attack could be should you decide to enter it. So there we go. So we have a few drivers, like we saw Samuel Pickering, we've got Roman Grandel as well, I think, who used to do Run What You Brung, thought, actually, holy cow, I love this. I'm going to go jump into the championship, put my money where my mouth is, and actually get stuck into the fight with some other drivers. And so there we go. Anyway, now the green flag is out and our pro qualifying is underway. Roman Grandel then, who we've mentioned a few times just in this session, in that 333 car, heads out on track. It is in Club Pro 2-wheel drive. If you're wondering why an Audi S3 is in 2-wheel drive and not 4-wheel drive, that's because it's running all kinds of fancy gearboxes and diffs, which mean that it is no longer using that standard all-wheel drive Quattro powertrain. This is now 2-wheel drive. Let's take a look at the comments then. We have one here from Amanda Cherry saying, "Go Chris Cherry, love from me and Ella." There you go, Chris Cherry, if you can hear that. Hopefully that'll give you a little bit of a spurring on. Great to see. Thank you very much. Tina Marshall there saying, "Go Pittman." So another voice of support there for our drivers out on track right now. Absolutely love to see it. Thank you very much, guys, for getting involved in the comments. If you do have any questions, by all means, send them across. I will do my best to answer them. Or if not, I will try to find somebody more intelligent to answer them, which shouldn't be too difficult. And and then let's see where the conversation goes. Meanwhile, on your track, then we have Phil Reed in the Nismo GT3 GTR working its way around the track. I used to think that this car was V8 powered, but that was actually the GT500 machine that's used in the Japanese Super GT. Actually, the European GT3 car retains that VQ-derived V6. So there you can see it being put to good use as he makes his way through Island Bend and up and over Hilltop. Now, Phil Reed was the fastest driver all morning, so it'll be interesting to see whether he manages to keep up that pace. Just taking a look at some of these comments then. Go 333 says Donato Mercuri. Thank you very much. Here we go. When does it head to Snetterton? That's a great question, Jim Standring. Let me come back to you on that one. I believe that's later in the year. I do have a calendar handy. Let me come back to you on that one. I'll give you the time and date and everything because, yeah, no, I don't have that to hand right now. But I'll get back to you on that one. There we go. Fala Khalid says, finally the pro class. Absolutely. So the pro class, these kind of cars are what people worldwide know Time Attack for. Whether that's in the US, in Australia, in Japan, even in Italy, or here, Time Attack is really defined by these. The poster child of Time Attack is the super wide body, wild aero, 1,000 horsepower monsters. And if that's what you were waiting for, that's what the pro class is going to deliver. Meanwhile, Darren Spooner then in that Peugeot 205, also running in our pro class. He's running here in Club Pro 2-wheel drive. There we go to number 13 car, the Spooks Motorsport Peugeot 205. And on your screen then right now is Matt Ewing, the number 22 machine, who you saw speaking with Susie Wallace a little bit earlier on, the JDS Sport Mitsubishi Evo 7, making his way through Island Bend. Perhaps these drivers, having been all stung earlier throughout the morning, taking Island Bend with a little more care than I've seen earlier in the day, with pretty much everyone coming out of there backwards. Very, very tricky corner to get right. Probably one of the most challenging here. In terms of the faster sections, it's really, you know, do it fast or crash. Whereas Island Bend is one of those really technical school book corners where you have that classic hairpin shape, you know, the wide entry, what is it? Wide, narrow, wide kind of drive racing line through there. But of course, complicated by the fact that you do have that downhill, super bumpy braking zone thrown in that you don't have on the longer layout of Alton Park, because you just continue down the straight instead of turning off it. So Island Bend there, a real driver's corner. Let's have a look at some of these comments. Hey, Team JDS. Donato Mercury saying 23rd of October, I believe. That's in regards to when we're going to be at Snetterton. If you have answered that question for me, I really appreciate that. I'm going to check that in the meantime. Let's have a look at what's going on track. Take a look at these lap times. So Phil Reed then in that Nismo GT3, still the fastest car out there. He carries on the form that he defined earlier on in the day. There you go, Phil Reed then on your screens in that huge, super wide Nismo GT3. Let's have a look. So Snetterton then is a double header. Both rounds 8 and 9 are at Snetterton, and they are on the 23rd and the 24th of October. So Donato, there we go, right on the money, except that we do also have another round at Snetterton the following day on the 24th of October. So there we go. Question answered. See, if I can't answer it, someone else is going to chip in the comments and answer it for me. So thank you very much for engaging over there, guys. Let's take a look at some of these lap times then. You can see in the background one of the cars coming into the pit lane just to make those, presumably to make some tire pressure tweaks, some little tweaky mabobs like what we were discussing earlier on. I'm going to keep an eye on that car just to tell you what it is that's being changed, as far as I can see from up here in the commentary box. Here we go, then across the line comes the number 17 machine of Steve Reed, of Uncle Steve Racing, that Mitsubishi Evo 8. Cool down light switches on, and you can see that big reduction in pace as that car now slows down for a cool down lap. Those of you who've done track work before will know that it's not many cars can do lap after lap after lap after lap after lap of track driving. Even ones that are built for that here. So what we'll see is cars do a hot lap and then a cool lap and then a hot lap and then a cool lap, and you can see that big change in pace. As a bottle flies across the room. Not at me, I promise. And there we go. Let's take a look at our lap times then. So Phil Reed taking it a little bit more easily this time around, leading the pack with a 124.0, 4.9 seconds clear of the next car in Pro Extreme, which is Paul Doyle in that Subaru Impreza with a 128.9. Paul Doyle in the BC Racing sponsored machine, the black one with a huge spoiler on the back. Awesome thing. Do remember at Candwell Park a little while ago seeing the spoiler on that car just disintegrate, presumably from having so much downforce. I couldn't work out whether it was on at a funny angle to create like some kind of Koenigsegg style, you know, dynamic active aero situation, or whether it was just broken. And the answer was that it was just broken. But there we go. When it works pretty well, because Paul Doyle, second fastest overall, having made up 15 places so far in this session. Andrew Barber then third fastest overall in that Mitsubishi Evo 9. Actually, so a question for those of you who are watching, if you do know about Mitsubishi Evos, please do jump in here, because I'm kind of curious. You know, in Time Attack we see loads of Mitsubishis 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Never have I seen in Time Attack, from what I can remember, a Mitsubishi Evo 10. From what people have told me, they are a lot more complicated to work on. But I'd be curious to hear your input. If you're watching on the comments, then please chip in with your insights. Why are there no Evo 10s in Time Attack? Why is that? Why is that? I don't know. Please let me know. Jim Stranding, are spectators allowed to at Time Attack at Snetterton? Look, it's tricky to say right now, right? Because everything changes all the time. But here we are running the show alongside Tunerfest North. We have people here, we have people milling around, looking at the show, looking at the trackside stuff. So if things remain as they are, then presumably yes. But I will caveat that by saying, look, these things change day to day. And meanwhile, Jeff Kershaw then, one thing that does not change day to day is the fact that people will fall off at Island Bend, and Jeff Kershaw has done that. Meanwhile, Susie's in the pit lane. What do you got for us, Susie?
I'm down here in the pits with Hayden King. So how's your day going so far?
Yeah, not too bad. It's a little bit slow and steady this morning, just getting the grips with the car, but getting a little bit quicker now. Got another 2-3 seconds off in that session, so going quite well. Unfortunately, the fan's just fallen off, as you can see in the background there, so...
It doesn't seem like something you need in this kind of like hot day.
No, like it's not hot enough in there already, and for the car and for me, so... Yeah, hopefully we can get that sorted. It might be a little pinprick in the radiator, but hopefully get back out for the finals and see if we can get a little bit more out of it. It'd be nice.
So are you struggling with the temperatures out there? Is it causing any problems for the car? Or?
I think with all the cars really in this temperature, obviously being turboed as well, doesn't help with the temperatures. So yeah, it's sort of, you get sort of 2 or 3 quick laps in, and then obviously you've got to cool it all down because your engine temp's getting up, your oil temps. So brakes, everything's getting all too hot really, so you just got to sort of, yeah, like I said, got a few hot laps, cool it down a little bit, another couple of hot laps, so yeah, it's been good so far.
Is it more of a problem for you or for the car?
Wow, bit of both I think.
Excellent, and then how are you hoping to do in the last round? You got one more round left?
No, I'm in for the full season, so I had a real good race at Cadwell in the first one in the wet. The car seemed to do really well. So I got a third in my first time out, so I was really chuffed with that. And then we were at Brands, wasn't too bad, but I had the turbo hot side come loose. So missed the qualifying session for that, got all that back out, so it wasn't too bad. And then yeah, today's been going quite good, but just trying to get some more seat time in the car. I haven't had it too long, it's been rebuilt, so it's just getting some seat time, getting comfortable with it really. Last thing I want to do is be putting it in the barrier, so.
No, well, hopefully you can get the fan back on and get back out there for the final session then.
Yeah, I'm hoping so,
Excellent, good luck out there.
Thank you. Cheers.
So there we go, the answers to a few mysteries provided there, so thank you very much for that. Meanwhile on track, the number 57 car of Stuart Sims of GR Performance, the Mitsubishi Evo 6. Actually, I did see a comment here. Here we go, Leanne Sims on the stream, comment saying, "Come on, Stuart Sims," and that's exactly what he's doing there. You can see Stuart Sims, the number 57 car, currently running. Let's have a look at the timing screen. By the way, again, I do re-invite you to open up the TSL timing yourself, so you can get all the juicy data that I've got right at your fingertips. Stuart Sims then currently 12th fastest overall, 3rd fastest in Club Pro 4-wheel drive is Stuart Sims, and then Mitsubishi Evo Roman Grandel in the car number 333. Having just been wished luck there on the Facebook comments. There we go, Roman Grandel, 15th fastest overall, 4th fastest in Club Pro 2-wheel drive, making that leap into one of the more senior classes. As there we go, Bren Simpson is off the track. What is going on? Looks like he's perhaps had a mechanical issue. He's just pulling over to the side of the track. Well clear of the racing line. Great work there from Bren Simpson, just to not really impede any other driver. As soon as he saw an issue, he jumped straight off the track onto the grass. And you can see also Roman Grandel's doing something over there. I'm not entirely sure if these two things are connected. Bren Simpson, though, having pulled well clear off the track, so the session can continue. So some great sportsmanship, some great racecraft there from Bren Simpson, pulling off the track as soon as he spotted that issue. That's what we like to see. Session can stay live, and meanwhile, making the most of that live session, that green flag situation, is the car of Paul Doyle, I think. Yep, there we go, the 2-4, just a different number in the entry list, quite confusing. Paul Doyle in the BC Racing Super Impreza, making the most of the fact that the session has not been called that Brent Simpson pulled well clear off the track. And Paul Doyle there, second fastest overall in that Pro Extreme Subaru Impreza. There we go with that huge wing that we discussed earlier. Really working that to the max, making all that downforce that he can as he weaves his way through Alton Park. Now coming up and over Deer Leap is Chris Cherry in the Cherry Racing Mitsubishi Evo 5. There he goes, start finish straight. Manages to cross the line just in time perhaps to start another flying lap. I'm not quite sure whether he made it on time. That's definitely going to be close. And so the checkered flag is out then, and that is the qualifying done. There you can see the number 68 machine of Paul Wright, the Subaru Impreza P1. And if you're thinking, hang on, is that the Subaru Impreza P1? Yes, it is. This is the ultra rare, ultra exclusive two-door Subaru Impreza P1. That's what Paul Doyle has brought to Time Attack. He's been competing in that for years. And it's great to see all this historic and iconic machinery here at Time Attack with us today. Let's take a look at the qualifying results. Then Phil Reed fastest with a 124.0. I'm going to rattle through this quickly, then let's get distracted and discuss other stuff. Doyle with a 128.2, Barber with a 128.3, Hayward with a 130.3, Ewing with a 130.6, Robinson with a 131.4, Steve Reed with a 132.7, Spooner with a 133.2, Simpson with a 133.3, Cherry with a 133.7, Plant with a 133.7 also. Pittman with a 136.8, Sims with a 138.4, Wright with a 142.2, Henson with a 142.3, Grendel with a 146.8, Dorwood with a 148.6, and Kershaw with a 149.1. John, meanwhile, the number 127 machine of Bradley John, having gone out but not having set a fast lap. And there we go, Roman Grendel then. We did see some strange behavior earlier in the session. Driving a little bit slowly. He is now stopped on the side of the track. So I do wonder what's up with that. Hopefully nothing too serious. There we go, so Brent Simpson then taking that checkered flag, having earlier stopped out on track we saw. Not quite sure why he didn't go into the pit lane, but he's going to stay out for another lap. There we go, the other cars then making their way into the pit lane. And there you go, the results on your screen then. Ben Robinson, first in class in that noble M12 comeback king. He said to Susie that he came here to win. And with that qualifying result, he is certainly making a statement of intent. Chris Cherry then first in Club Pro four-wheel drive in that Mitsubishi Evo 5. Ahead of Gary Plant in the Mitsubishi Evo 5 also. Pro Extreme, then Paul Doyle leads Colin Dorward in the Subaru Impreza and the Mitsubishi Evo 9 respectively. Quite a big gap there between these two. So I suspect the numbers alone don't tell the full story. And then we have the GT3 sports car and prototype class. Phil Reed in the Nismo GTR GT3 leads Steve Henson in the Porsche 996 GT3 Cup. Again, a big gap between these two. And that's your results. So, thank you very much for joining us for qualifying. Thank you very much for getting involved in the comments. It's been great fun as usual. We will be back with Time Attack shortly at 4:35 as per the schedule. Probably be a little bit later than that. But yeah, we'll see you at 4:45, allegedly, 4:35, something like that. Yeah, it depends on how everything else goes, red flags and so on. But the schedule is 4:35, so perhaps let's try to reassemble at 4:35. Thank you, and see you later this afternoon for the Time Attack Final.